shortly we're going to hear some Quran. Thank you.
وما أصابكم يوم التقى الجمعان فبإذن الله وليعلم الذين نافقوا وقيل لهم تعالوا قاتلوا في سبيل الله أو ادفعوا قالوا لو نعلم قتالا لاتبعناكم هم للكفر يومئذ أقرب منهم للإيمان يقولون بأفواههم ما ليس في قلوبهم والله أعلم بما يكتمون الذين قالوا لإخوانهم وقعدوا لو أطاعونا ما قتلوا قل فادرءوا عن أنفسكم الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله ويستبشرون بالذين لم يلحقوا بهم من خلفهم ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل وأن الله لا يضيع أجر المؤمنين.
Me inoi tātou. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa pounamu te moana, hei huarahi mā tātou i te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou i a tātou katoa, hui e, tai ki e. As of yesterday, Gaza health authorities declared at least over 9,000 people have been killed in this genocide on Gaza. Close to 4,000 of them are children, 2,500 of them women. This is the equivalent to one child killed every 10 minutes. Residential areas, hospitals, churches, media offices, UNRWA and health facilities, and the deadly Jabalia refugee camp, which was bombed with at least 6 shells, each weighing a ton of explosives. This morning, an ambulance convoy in front of Al Shifa Hospital was bombed. Every single life matters. We will now have a minute of silence to honor the martyrs, the civilians, children, women, and elderly, and innocent Palestinian lives.
And now please rise for the Palestinian national anthem. Thank you for that. I was watching Fathi's mum there singing along. Next time I think we should get the Hajj out here to sing the anthem for us. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Arama Rata. Arama is Ngāti Maniapoto Taranaki and Ngaruahine descent. She's an independent researcher who studies racism and colonialism and imperialism. She'll speak about the significance of this location and New Zealand government's poor response to Israel's war in Gaza. Please, can you make Arama feel welcome? Thank you.
Tēnā tātou, thank you everyone for being here today. A few days ago, you may have seen that there was a UN resolution passed calling for a truce. And the overwhelming majority of the world was in favour of that. There were just a few rogue states that went against that majority. New Zealand was one of the countries that voted for the resolution, but only as part of our good cop, bad cop routine, because not very long after that, when our outgoing Prime Minister, Chris Hipkins, was asked about it, what did he say? He said that a ceasefire was unrealistic. A ceasefire. Shame. I guess what is unrealistic is any of us expecting that Labour might stand with the working people of the world, the first to die in the middle of war. Our incoming Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, shame, thank you. He said Israel has a right to defend itself. He said that he had not been briefed, he had not been given advice. So, Mr. Luxon, I have some advice for you. I refer you to the UN resolution of the Security Council passed in 2016 when your party was in government, which called for, which stated that Israel's settlement activities constitute a flagrant violation of international law and has no legal validity. I refer you, Mr. Luxton, to a United Nations Human Rights Report from 2022 that says that Israel's 55-year occupation of Palestinian territory is apartheid. I refer you, Mr. Luxon, to a Human Rights Watch report dated October 12, 2023, giving evidence of the use of white phosphorus in Gaza. That's a war crime. And I refer you to a Centre for Constitutional Rights report. It's an emergency legal briefing paper which says that that there is an unfolding crime of genocide of the Palestinian people and of US failure to prevent and their complicity in genocide. And I'll read part of it. It says that the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, of which New Zealand is a signatory, places a duty on all 153 signatories to prevent and punish genocide. The Convention criminalises not just the commission of genocide, but incitement and attempts to commit genocide, as well as complicity in genocide. And I refer you, Mr. Luxon, to Israel President Isaac Herzog's comments on October 8, where he stated they do not discriminate between combatants and civilians. What they are doing is genocide. And I refer you to your own comments again, where you said Israel has a right to defend itself. It doesn't matter how many times we hear leaders of the West say this, it is not true. You have no right to defend yourself on occupied territory. And lastly, Mr. Luxon, I refer you to this report issued by the Palestinian Ministry of Health, dated 26th of October, which includes a list of names of all of the Palestinian people slaughtered by the State of Israel. There is no lack of evidence, Mr. Luxon. There are libraries filled with the crimes of Israel. You don't lack information. You lack human decency. You lack compassion. You lack moral courage. As a signatory of that Convention Against Genocide, we have an obligation to punish genocide. Do your job. Mr. Luxon also said that the resistance was barbarous. You are barbarous. Mr. Luxon said that the actions of the Palestinian militants was terroristic. That's no surprise to Māori here. They called us terrorists too. We did everything we could to press for peace, but we realized that there was no stopping them, there was no negotiating for peace, because their agenda was always expansion. Their agenda was always ethnic cleansing. So I say to Mr. Luxon and all the leaders of the West, don't talk to us about our tactics when you're living on stolen land. Don't talk to us about violence. You brought violence here. Don't talk to us about terrorism when you've been terrorizing people, Indigenous people, since you arrived. Our freedom fighters were called rebels. Our resistance leaders have been called terrorists. Now we know them as heroes. And to the Palestinian people, we will not wait for history to redeem you. We redeem you. You don't need to be redeemed. Your cause is righteous, and Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Free! Free! Palestine! You're not loud enough. Free! Free! Palestine! Free! Free! Palestine! Okay. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Kia ora.
Thank you, Arma, for those good words. Next, we'd like to invite Tamim Shaltoni to come and speak to us. Tamim lives down in the Waikato, so he's travelled up here today to be with us. Tamim is a Palestinian New Zealander, and he's going to share with us some of his own personal story, his family story about the Nakba. So please, can you make him feel welcome? Give him some love. Tamim.
Kia ora. It is sad circumstances that have brought us here today, but I'm really glad to see you all here today and to see that many people who understand what it means to be a human and to understand why we need to care about what's happening in Palestine. So thank you. I'm here today to share with you a personal story. It's a very personal story. It's the story of my own family's Nakba. While it's my own story, it's a snapshot of the history of Palestine. Through this story, you will understand what's been going on in Palestine since 1948 until today. My grandparents on both sides came from Palestine. They came from one place called Safad, that is in North Palestine, and from another place called Al-Lid. Al-Lid is in Central Palestine. For the purpose of today's story, I'm going to focus on Al-Lid, hometown of my father's family. In 1948, Al-Lid was just another Palestinian town, another town in Palestine. It had 50,000 people living there. One day in July in 1948, Israel decided to capture Al-Lid. So what happened on that day? They started bombarding Al-Lid from air. And as soon as the bombarded finished, the army ground invaded Al-Lid. And they started shooting and killing everyone that they saw in town. It's just another town. There was no army, nothing. They killed people on the streets, in shops, in markets. A few people took shelter in a mosque. So there's a mosque in the middle of Al-Lid. So some people took shelter in the mosque. They thought that they would be safe in a holy space, but not with Israel. They killed everyone who was in that mosque on that day. 176 people were massacred in that mosque on that day. By the end of the day, the army took control of the entire city. And they ordered a few men from Al-Lid to dig a trench and to bury everyone, because the bodies were everywhere across the city. And that's how we know the exact number of the people who were killed on that day. 426 people were killed in one day in Al-Lid. In the following day, the troops went door to door across the entire town, and they rounded up every single person. Men, women, children, sick, elderly, everyone was rounded up. They put them in the street, and an order came in to leave the city. Everyone leave. My grandparents at the time, they had 3 children. The oldest was 8, the youngest was 3 or 4. So my grandparents with their 3 children, along with the 50,000 people of Al-Lid, started walking east, following the instructions of the occupation army. In order to hurry everyone up, the troops started shooting on top of the people as they were walking by, just above their heads, to hurry them up and just to keep them walking out. So imagine a column of 50,000 people just with their children, with everyone just walking, leaving their city. The troops, they set up roadblocks at the exits of Al-Lid, and they started searching everyone as they left. They took everything from these people. Food, water, anything that they grabbed with them, the troops took it away. Women, they stripped out of their necklaces, their rings, watches, everything. The only thing that these 50,000 people were allowed to take is the clothes on their backs. That's it. So they started walking east, and that is in July, the height of the Middle East summer, with no food, no water. They walked for 3 days. 350 people died in that walk alone, of thirst, exhaustion, heat. My uncle, who was 8 at the time, he's still alive. He said he thought it was basically the judgment day, because that is how it felt to him. You know, he was 8, he was confused, everyone was walking, everyone was panicking, bodies were on the floor everywhere. During that walk, he told us at one stage he just wanted to rest on the floor. So there was a pile of rocks, and he's 8, right? So he sat down on the pile of rocks, and he felt something just underneath him. He checked it out, and it was a human arm. It was a grave of the people who died on that walk. So my grandparents, they survived that walk, unlike the 350 who didn't. And that walk became known as a Lid Death March. While it's just a story of people of Al-Lid, but it's 1/10 of what happened in Palestine between 1947 and 1948. This is what we collectively call Nakba, the Palestinian catastrophe, or the destruction of the Palestinian society. It started back then and is still ongoing. So my family, my grandparents and their 3 children, they arrived after 3 days in Ramallah. They stayed for some time there, and they decided to move to Gaza. They thought that it would be safe, better in Gaza. That was 1949 probably, and the way from West Bank to Gaza was still open. So they made the walk again from Ramallah to Gaza. As soon as they arrived in Gaza, they stayed in a refugee camp. There was nothing. Gaza was full of refugee camps of displaced or expelled Palestinians, just like my grandparents. So basically what happened, all the surrounding villages and towns surrounding Gaza, they were depopulated, and everyone was concentrated in Gaza. So my grandparents found it really tough over there. And what happened, so my dad was born in Gaza. So he was born in a tent in a refugee camp in 1950. As soon as he was born, my grandparents decided to leave Gaza because there were no job opportunities, resources were very limited, and they got a word that conditions in Jordan were slightly better for Palestinian refugees. So they decided to move from Gaza to Jordan, walk again east. But there was a problem. When they came to Gaza, the road was open for them. But in 1950, all of a sudden, if you want to go from Gaza to Jordan, there's this new state, very unfriendly state that is called Israel, just popped up. Now for Israel, in order to prevent all these expelled Palestinians from returning to their homes, they adopted a free fire policy. Under this free fire policy, orders were given to troops and in the entire army just to shoot any Palestinian that you see on site. They call them infiltrators. Like imagine one day this is your home, next day you are an infiltrator. Up to 5,000 Palestinians were killed under that policy. Their crime, they just wanted to return to their homes. There were rape cases too. This is well documented. But for my grandparents, they decided to take the risk and just to move out of Gaza and to go to Jordan. So they left at one night from Gaza along with 50 people. So 50 people in a caravan, and they just decided to sneak out of Gaza through Israel to Jordan. They started walking at night until the morning. In the morning, they would hide in a cave or something because they didn't want to be detected. Remember, there's a free fire policy. And they knew about all these Palestinians who were killed just because they were walking over there. So they will wait until the end of the day, then they will start walking again in the night for another 3 days. Now, during these 3 days, the new baby, who became my dad, he was crying, just like, what babies do. And everyone was terrified in their group, the 50 people, because they thought if someone hears the cries of the baby, they will get detected and everyone would be killed on the spot. So my grandfather, he was forced to do the most difficult decision any parent can do. He was forced to abandon his baby to save his people. So he put the baby on the ground and just walked away to save these 50 people with him. Luckily, there were a few men just walking at the back. They saw this baby on the ground. They picked him up and they walked ahead, and they figured out that basically it must be for one of these people, and they returned him back to his mom. So he was saved. Eventually, they reached Jordan in 3 days, and they lived there until they died. My grandparents, they lived and died in Jordan, and they never ever saw their home again. That day in July, the day they left Al-Lid, was the last time ever they saw their own home. Just imagine the suffering and the grief for their entire life. They lived for another 50 years after that. They lived with this. And the entire world was just watching. So what happened to Al-Lid after it was depopulated, ethnic cleansing? Israel brought in new settlers. It was like a ghost city, and the new settlers came in, and the houses were reassigned to these new settlers. A random family was assigned our own home, our own physical home, They were assigned this new place, became theirs. They sat on our own chairs. It was fully furnished. Just, people vanished. So they sat on our own chairs. They ate our own food from the pantry, just as we left it. The pickles, cheese, olives, on our own table. It became theirs. They tended to the trees, our trees in the backyard, in the orchard. They took over the shops, the workshops, everything in town. It's just a new town. It's all yours. I want justice for my grandparents. I want justice for my own parents, for my own siblings, and for my Palestinian brothers and sisters. I want peace too. I want the peace where you can't just rock into someone else's house and just make it yours, because that is not peace. That is the opposite of peace. I want the peace that you cannot do these horrible things and just get away with it and we move on. Now, the reason this story is relevant to what's happening today in Gaza is because we are seeing it happening again at a much different scale. So Gaza is being bombarded, it's being invaded, and we hear about these evacuation orders for people in Gaza. Well, guess what? My grandparents, they were evacuated, but then they will never be able to go back home. This is not an evacuation, this is ethnic cleansing, a crime against humanity. It's a genocide as well. Now, this genocide in Gaza is happening on our own behalf because our leaders told Israel, you can defend yourself by wiping out Gaza. It's happening on our own behalf, and we need to stop it. And the way we stop it is by coming here. So thank you everyone for coming today. Kia ora.
Thank you, Tamim. Our hearts are heavy, and I think we should come together and sing a song. Ka waiata tātou, te aroha, te aroha.
Assalamu alaikum, kia ora everyone. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for supporting and standing in solidarity with Palestine and Gaza. I'm Minas Al Ansari, and I'm about to introduce the co-founders of Dayenu, Abigail Allen and Justine. Dayenu is a New Zealand Jews Against Occupation. They are a group of Jewish whānau across the country who are fighting for a better world. A world where our Palestinian brothers and sisters can live freely on their own land. Justine is also an expert union organizer for New Zealand Nurses Organization, and she will be giving us some tips for anyone facing harassment at work for supporting Palestine. Please welcome Abigail and Justine.
Okay. Thank you so much for having us. I might get a bit emotional. I've never been so proud to be Jewish and to stand here with my Jewish brothers and sisters. And I've never been able to be so publicly and openly Jewish as I am here today, and that feels amazing. So thank you. I cannot thank Palestinian Youth Aotearoa enough for accepting us with open arms, because our community, I cannot say the same for them. I'm a little nervous, so it's going to be kind of lame, I'm going to read off my phone, but bear with me. If there are any Jewish people, Jewish whanaunga in the crowd who we haven't connected with yet, please come and meet us at the BAM Rotunda and just stand together with us. We're here for you. So kia ora, my name is Abigail. I'm one of the co-founders of Daenu, New Zealand Jews Against Occupation. Daenu is a proclamation from the Haggadah, the book of Passover, and it means enough for us. So we kind of interpreted that as one day of occupation of Palestinian land is too much. It's enough for us. So we say enough. We are a pretty ragtag group of Jewish people. A lot of us have been rejected by the formalized Jewish institutions for our views. Shame. A lot of us have faced intense harassment and bullying. For what? For what? For thinking that Palestinians are human beings too? Shame. And I have a lot of love for the Jewish community here. There are a lot of Jews here who are afraid to stand with us, afraid for the backlash. But there are a lot of community leaders here who have done a lot of damage to their own people. Shame! 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 There have always been Jewish voices against the occupation, against the Nakba of 1948. That's because what Israel is doing is not Jewish. It is an insult to Jewish culture and Jewish values. Jewish culture promotes peace. It promotes saving and protecting human life. It promotes justice. And over again, it teaches positive action. One of our most revered teachers, a rabbi from around 1500 years ago, Hillel the Elder, spoke of this over and over again. Im ein ani li, mi li. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? U'che'ani la'atzmi, ma ani. If I am only for myself, what am I? Ve'im lo achshav, eimatai. If not now, when? All of us at Daenu have refugee stories in our whakapapa. All of our tupuna were victims of great violence. Many of us have family members who survived the Shoah, the Holocaust. How dare Israel use our pain, our trauma, our stories of struggle to try justify this monstrosity upon Gaza and Palestine. The last 75 years of massacres, of land grabs, of oppression. Nothing that has happened to us even justifies the death of or oppression of one Palestinian. Shame. And what has the last 75 years brought us? Are the Jewish people any safer for what Israel has done to the Palestinian people? No. Israel has betrayed the Palestinian people. It has also betrayed us. It has doomed us. Look at October 7th. Those attacks did not happen in a vacuum. They did not come out of nowhere. The violence Israel did to Gaza and Palestinians for decades upon decades, the raids, apartheid laws, the massacres, the bombings, that was always going to come back onto our own people. Through suffocating and slaughtering Palestinians, Israel put our people at risk. Shame. And with that, I pose a question to our leaders. You know, we should stop what we're doing to Palestinians because it is the human thing to do. It is the right thing to do. But obviously they're not listening to us when we say that. So the question I ask to them is, do you actually want peace? for our own people, a lot of our community are intimidated into supporting Israel no matter what they do. That is supporting genocide, and that is not peace. That is warmongering. Growing up, I was deeply brainwashed and indoctrinated into right-wing Israeli nationalism, into believing, actually a lot of us were, you know, I didn't know what a Palestinian was until I was 19 years old. I used to think from the river to the sea meant Jews to the sea. What a disgusting and racist idea. To think that Palestinians inherently want to kill us, that is a terrible thing to say. Enough. Look at our own country. It is New Zealand, and it is also Aotearoa. We have a long way to go here, but two peoples can live together in peace. We can build a future together. You know, New Zealand, if you look at New Zealand, we can give land back peacefully. Just like the Jewish people are a nation of people, so the Palestinian people are the nation of Palestine. And Palestine is not free. Palestine should be free. End the siege on Gaza. End the apartheid. End the occupation. And free Palestine! Free Palestine! The Palestinian people here, they are my beloved friends, my whanaunga. I will not sit quietly and watch them suffer. We at Dayenu will never stop fighting for what's right. And I'm no longer afraid to say it. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! Thank you. Palestine! Palestine! Palestine will be free! Okay, kia ora koutou everybody. My name is Justine Sachs. I, with Abigail, co-founded Dayenu in 2014. 2014 was a big year for us. It was the year that we found out that we were lied to at Jewish school. We were never taught who the Palestinian people were and what their story was. And in 2014, that lie, that myth came crashing down in front of our eyes. And we felt compelled to do something. And that's where Dayenu came from. I don't want to repeat, Abigail's made our points really well for us, but I just want to say that I, too, along with my brothers and sisters, am a proud Jewish person standing in solidarity with you all today. I spoke in Wellington last week and I told the story of my grandfather who survived pogroms in Lithuania and narrowly avoided concentration camps in Germany. I am compelled to be here today because my family has experienced a genocide, and a genocide is taking place right now in Gaza. Shame! 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 We, Jewish people of conscience, will not be silent. We want to make it very clear to Israel, we will not allow this to happen in our name. Not in our name! Not only do I say not in our name, I say never again. The phrase never again is now. So if you meant never again, then you should be standing with us now. I also wanted to talk to you today, though, about solidarity. as a trade unionist and as a Jewish person. Because in the face of such evil, and indifference from our government, indifference from Western governments, shame. It can be very difficult to imagine what a better world looks like. It can be difficult to see how things could be different, how peace and justice could be won in Palestine, but across the world. You might feel hopeless, and I want you today to fight that feeling, because I see hope looking out at all of you. I see hope. I see a coalition of people from all walks of life coming together to demand a ceasefire. Are we going to stop? No! Are we going to stop? No! Palestinians, Jewish people of conscience, Maori, and our allies, we are here and we are saying enough. Enough! Do not feel powerless in the face of their guns and their bombs and their military-industrial complex. Do not feel helpless, because we have people, and it is people power that is going to prevail here. Because I'm not just a Jew. I'm not just a Jew, because my parents grew up in another brutal apartheid regime, the regime of South Africa, yeah? And they too were people of conscience, and they told me how impossible it seemed that this should end, that the violent system would crumble. The oppressor felt all-powerful. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. But it did end. And it ended because people rose up. Maritime workers refused to dock ships that were set sail for South Africa. Consumers boycotted South African products. Workers went on strike in companies that were doing business with South Africa. The South African resistance did not give up internally. Together, we won, and we're going to win again. We need to do the same right here, right now. The Gazan people are asking us to do the same. The Palestinian trade union movement have asked trade unionists around the world to refuse to build weapons destined for Israel, to refuse to transport weapons to Israel, to pass motions within your trade union to this effect, to take action against companies involved in supporting Israel's illegal blockade, and to pressure governments to stop any military trade with Israel. Our trade union movement in Aotearoa has called for a ceasefire. That's a start. The Belgian trade union movement is refusing to transport military equipment. Do you hear that? Because I hear the growing realization of our power. I want you to know that when ordinary people are organized and realize it is we who make the machine run, not only do politicians listen, but they get scared. So feel hope in yourself, in this crowd, and keep fighting together, because solidarity is the only way forward. And I want to read a quote by Eugene Debs, who was a trade unionist and a socialist in the 1900s in America. And this is when he was being tried. And he said to the judge for sedition, "Your Honor, years ago, I recognized my kinship with all living beings, and I made up my mind that I was not one bit better than the meanest on earth. I said then, as I say now, that while there is a lower class, I am in it. While there is a criminal element, I am of it. And while there is a soul in prison, a soul oppressed, I am not free. We are not free until Palestine is free." So I want to say, because I know this is happening, that Palestinian and Muslim people are being targeted in their workplace, in their places of study, yeah? The trade union movement is there for you. If you are a union member, you pick up the phone. We're there for you, and keep an eye out, because there's more support coming. The workers of the world are there with you. We are with Palestine. So kia kaha, solidarity from Dayenu, and let's keep fighting. I want to see all of us here next week again.
Free! free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! What do we want? Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Ceasefire! When do we want it? Now! Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine! Kia ora.
Thank you so much. I want to just take this opportunity to acknowledge Justine's work in the past. Justine and our Palestinian friend and colleague, Nadia Abu Shanab, they wrote to Lord when she was going to go and perform in Tel Aviv all those years ago. And because of that writing, because of that appeal, Lord refused to go, and she abided by the boycott, divestment, and sanctions. So just like, please thank Justine for showing the courage, and can we please follow her example? Write to artists that are going to go to Israel. Write to musicians. Tell them, no, you must not normalize the occupation. Our next speaker today is the youngest speaker we have. He's the young Palestinian man, young Palestinian youth. Can you please make Os welcome? Give him some love. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum and kia ora to all. Did you know that since October 7th, more than 11,000 people have been killed in Gaza? Did you know that every 5 minutes a child from Gaza gets killed? Did you know that 3,760 children have been killed in Gaza? Did you know that more than 42 families have been wiped out in Gaza? And the few kids in Gaza who have survived this massacre are living without their parents and without anyone to take care of them. They are just standing in the streets, hoping a bomb doesn't land on them. These young kids have nowhere to sleep. And even if they do find a place, they will be too scared to sleep because they think an airstrike is going to land on them. And if they do survive, they suffer witnessing their homes crumble, their parents dying, terrifying flashbacks, increased paranoia of darkness and loud bangs, night terrors, and living through real-time trauma. They're constantly on guard. A lot of you will be wondering, what is written on my hand? My name, Aus, is written on my hand. A lot of you will be wondering, why? It's because the children is through the name written on your arms and legs. And with that said, I have 2 words, free, free. Palestine. Thank you.
Okay. Wait until I finish and then repeat. Free, free Gaza! Free, free Gaza! Free, free Gaza! From Auckland to Palestine! Killing children is a crime! From Auckland to Palestine! Killing children is a crime! Free, free! Kia ora.
For the next chant, I want you guys loud enough so it reaches Chris Luxon's place, okay? Our next speaker is a Labour Member of Parliament for Te 2 in Auckland. Honourable Phil Twyford. He worked as a journalist and a union organiser before becoming the founding executive director of Oxfam New Zealand. Phil's strong belief in justice led him to becoming Oxfam's global advocacy director based in Washington, D.C. He will be speaking to us about humanitarian aid ceasefire and international law adherence. Welcome, Honourable Phil.
Kia ora tātou, salam alaikum, shalom. You know, the United Nations gets a bad rap a lot of the time, and quite often it's justified. But a little over a week ago, the UN came together and made a statement backed by 121 countries. In fact, only 14 countries voted against it. And if the leaders of the international community have a will to listen, that resolution says what needs to be said. And in fact, it lays out a roadmap to end the suffering, to end the killing of civilians, to allow the creation of a free and independent Palestine, and to allow the peoples of Israel and Palestine to live together in peace and security. Now, there are three main points to it. The first is about international humanitarian law and the protection of civilians, the release of hostages, and the creation of corridors so that humanitarian aid can reach the people who need it. These are fundamental tenets of international humanitarian law, and they are currently being ignored. The thing is, it's international law. It applies to everybody. It applies to all parties to the conflict. And I, for one, condemn the violence against civilians by Hamas. But I also condemn the violence against civilians by the Israeli Defense Forces. And let me say this. The fact that Hamas killed civilians does not give Israel a free pass to kill civilians and turn a blind eye to international law. It does not exempt them from the obligations that are placed on everybody.
Shame on Labour. Shame on Labour. Shame on Labour. Shame on Labour. Shame on Labour.
The UN resolution also calls for an immediate and sustained end to hostilities. It calls for a humanitarian truce. The international community is saying to the parties, put your guns down. And that is the right thing. No, I'm not carrying on. Huh? I'm carrying on. Look, the UN resolution, folks. Okay, all right, fine. Okay.
Just take a breath. I'll ask you to.
Okay, it's all right. Sometimes people can't read the room. I just want to say, there are 2.3 million people held hostage in Gaza that have been and are being ethnically cleansed in a systematic genocide. And both Chris's are quiet. Basma. We are. But Rhonda's going to introduce our next speaker. Listen to her carefully. This is a party I support, and they speak the truth. Rand.
Thank you, everyone. Bear with us. The next person that I'm hoping to interview. The next person I'm going to introduce is Chloe Swarbrick. Chloe is your Member of Parliament for Auckland Central. It's the place she calls home. She has a strong voice in the community, is always standing for justice. She was elected as a Green Party MP in 2017 as the youngest MP in Aotearoa for over 40 years. Chloe showed people that politicians can look a little different, sound a little different, and do things a little differently. She is here today with her Green Party colleagues to show her solidarity for Palestine. Please give her some love, make her welcome.
Kia ora te whānau, just after what we've all just witnessed and we've seen unfold in front of us, I just wanted to say strongly, clearly and vehemently the Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand stands for a free Palestine. And I got to say, as the newly re-elected MP for Auckland Central, here where we have just succeeded through a people-powered, community-run campaign with the largest ever mandate of any Auckland Central candidate ever, that we put all of that on the line for a free Palestine. Because as Dr. Arama said, we have reports, we have information, we have expert data to fill up libraries and libraries and libraries of violence. We put that motion forward, and it was shot down by the ACT Party on the basis that us three had been at a protest in Aotea Square, yelling, shouting, and screaming, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free!" And we had, when the most recent events kicked off just a few weeks ago, this institution up the hill here, lighting up in the colors of Israel. And within just a few hours, we saw our community, we saw activists rallying and organizing to shut that down. Because I tell you one thing, ignorance from a war museum is despicable. And right here, within the boundaries of Auckland Central, I will be continuing to hold that war museum to account. Because again, it is the very least that we can possibly do. I also, just in acknowledging the whakapapa of my party that I am so proud of and standing in solidarity with the Palestinian movement that we are so proud to stand in solidarity with, is my co-leader and friends, the Honourable Marama Davidson, who in 2016 went on a women's peace flotilla to Gaza and was detained by Israeli forces, only then to be ejected back here home. We stand for a free Palestine because, again, the evidence is overwhelming, and if you look around you, you can see the power of people, which is far, far more powerful than the people who are in power. And if you look through the lens of your phones and you see the social media, which has facilitated the mass education and understanding, and therefore the ability that we have as people to rise up in solidarity and continue pushing every single day in and day out for a free Palestine, you see our collective power. So this is where we will turn up every single week until we have managed to get that freedom for our friends, for our allies, for Indigenous peoples worldwide. The Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand stands for Free Palestine. Say it with me. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Whānau, this ain't complicated. We've got enough expert evidence. This is genocide. This is ethnic cleansing. This is apartheid. And in historical stances, Aotearoa New Zealand has been proud to stand against that, and we will hold this damn government to account until we get there. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Kia ora te whānau, let's keep fighting.
Kia ora, Chloe. I've got a message to reiterate. You know, we've got some media silence again here. You know, media decided not to show up. They'll probably broadcast something about what happened before. And I'm going to tell media something. So media silence is violence. Media silence is complicity. And we've got a message to deliver to everybody who stays silent about the 3,900 plus kids that are being bombed in Gaza. Blood! Blood! Blood on your hands! Blood! Blood! Blood on your hands! Keep raising your hands, right? I want them to hear it. Luxon is at Diwali in Awatia Square. So, free, free Gaza! Free, free Gaza! Kia ora.
Palestine! 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 Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Thank you. Palestine! Palestine! Palestine will be free! Thank you. Thank you. Well done. Okay, everyone, another reminder. We're here at a peaceful protest. Okay, we're here voicing against violence. So please follow the instructions and pay close attention.
Before we introduce the next speaker, I want to invite everybody from the PYA fam. Please come up here. Please come up here. This next part is delivering our voice. PYA fam, everybody, come up. Yalla, I see you. Make your way here. Yalla. While they're moving. Free, free! Free, free! From the river to the sea! Maya and Alush, you should be front rowers now. Maya, I can't see you. Everybody, the team. I want the team. I want the team that's delivering today, and you'll see why.
Okay, I'm introducing our next speaker. She's our voice from Gaza. She was born there. She grew up in New Zealand, in Aotearoa. She last visited Gaza in 2009. She has vivid memories with a lot of her family who are still there. We're all praying for their safety and freedom. She'll share her feelings with us today. Please welcome Iman.
Today, I am angry because for 28 days, dead Palestinian bodies have lit up my phone screen while people loudly cheer for 28 more. Today, I am angry because as my blood boils, the blood of a Palestinian child runs through rubble as they lay lifeless, unable to be rescued, unable to be buried. Today, I am angry because the land of peace has been set on fire, and as it burns to the ground, the only thing the world leaders have offered is gasoline. Today, I am angry because I watched a video of a Palestinian father in Gaza carrying plastic bags filled with the only pieces left of his son. And somehow, it is still not horrific enough for some people to consider that maybe this Halloween, the gory costumes and the gory decorations are not necessary. Today, I am angry because it has become painfully obvious that democracy is dead. And this was never a system built for people like me. No matter how much we whitewash ourselves to fit their